Yes. How's it, guys? This is Dayvy FPL, and welcome to this Deadline with Dayvy live stream. A little bit of a special one today, guys. It's going to be our finalization of our wild card for this upcoming deadline on a Friday night. So as I always say on this Friday night, thank you so much for joining me. I'm pretty sure you guys have a lot of better things to do on your Friday night, so it's always appreciated if you guys do join me for a deadline live stream. In this live stream, we're finalizing our wild card draft. And you guys probably know more about that draft than I do, because currently I have so many drafts. I've got 3 drafts currently that we're going to be focusing on, that we're going to be talking to you guys through. And you guys can give me your opinions on them, because honestly, I haven't really decided on what the team's going to be. Still kind of swaying between Sterling and Aguero. So hopefully you guys can give me some clarification on who you guys would rather go for. But in terms of Friday night, hope you guys are doing all well. And as I said, thank you for joining me. So no, this is not my current squad. I'm not going to be captaining Dallas against Man City. This is just the current team I had for price rises. A little bit disappointed that a player like Son didn't drop in price last night, because that would have been quite a nicer value to the team value if we managed to bring him in a 0.1 cheaper. As you know, with a wild card, every 0.1 accounts for. So in terms of the people in chat, a lot of people saying, how's it? Some people saying Friday night vibes. It's going to be a very chilled out stream, not chilled in my own mind, because I'm currently pondering so many wildcard drafts. It's insane. But if you guys are also on your wild card, hopefully you're also going to be going well. Matthew Shane saying Sterling surely over Aguero. So the thing with Aguero for me is that I really want to get Vardy next week. So that's a really simple swap to just do not a Sterling and Aguero to a Vardy. I guess you could say the same about maybe going for a Sterling to a Son, and that's something that we might just kind of check out in this live stream. But the nice thing about Aguero is that I think there's a big chance that he will start on the weekend against Leeds, and I kind of think it is Aguero. I know he only has 1 goal in the Premier League this season, which is probably pretty tragic, but the current form of Sterling is also pretty tragic, so I think it's kind of just taking a punt on either of those and seeing who it goes for. But let's go through the drafts, and I want you guys please to pay attention to these, because I want you guys to tell me which draft you would rather go for. The first 2 are going to be the Aguero drafts, and then the last one, the third one, is going to be the Sterling draft. So the first one, bam, there it is. Mega differential here, so I know you guys are probably going to hate it. One thing to note is kind of the backline stays consistent throughout all of these drafts. So the backline is pretty certain for me, so I'll go through them quite quickly. Forster and Mendy, that's just simple. Chelsea's got a good defense. Forster's pretty cheap. Rudiger, nailed centre-back. I say nailed, but pretty much 80% nailed. Connor Cody, I just need a player that's going to be playing most minutes, and he definitely will. Holding, cheap Arsenal player with great fixtures. Lowton, another player that if he has to come off the bench is nailed, because you must remember Rudiger isn't 100% there. And then also I've gone for Phillips just because he's quite cheap. So yes, I've gone with our Trent Alexander-Arnold. A quick little advice about that and why I haven't gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold is, number one, I couldn't afford him, and that's pretty much the main reason behind it. Then also when I looked at the fixtures, I can see Liverpool conceding against Aston Villa. I can see them conceding against Leeds. And then Newcastle's probably the game that you're going to target those Liverpool assets. Now I know Trent Alexander-Arnold, you don't buy him for his defensive abilities, you buy him for his attacking threat. But I don't know at that 7.3 price bracket if it's going to be that great. So currently I've got Phillips in this draft. So the back line is pretty stable, as I said, through a lot of these drafts. So as Liam's saying, no Bruno there. Yes, that's why I said this is kind of the out there draft that I have gone for. I've gone for Salah, Neto, Smith Rowe, Sterling, and Jota, then Iheanacho, Aguero, and Kane. So the thinking behind this is that I probably with this draft would have to take a -4 hit. I would take Sterling out for Human Son, and then I would take Aguero out going for Vardy. So that's kind of the 2 chances that I'm planning for. And on a wild card, I don't really like to plan to take a -4 hit. That kind of makes me think that maybe going for that wild card wasn't even worth it when I'm already planning to take a -4 hit the next game week. So this is the reason I don't like this draft, but this is definitely the more differential aspect. The other thing of it is that I've gone for Sterling and Aguero here, so I might not know who to go for in terms of the captaincy and in terms of Sterling and Aguero. I'm just kind of banking on Leeds getting absolutely destroyed by Man City, and that's why I kind of think it might be worth taking the -4 hit. But this is the differential draft. This is the number 1 draft, so if you guys do like number 1, just keep it in your minds. The second draft is just the variation. I've gone for Rashford here, and I've gone for Human Son instead of, who was it, Neto and Sterling. So that was just a simple variation. I know I've gone without Fernandes here, and that's why I think that that's probably why I'm going for Rashford, because I just want a little bit of coverage. You could also go for someone like a Greenwood, but I think that Rashford might be a little bit better to go for in terms of his ability. Currently is yellow flagged, but I'm pretty sure he will be played against Spurs. And the only thing I don't like about going for Rashford is it seems like I'm a little bit scared of not going for Fernandes. And the reason I'm not going for Fernandes is if you look at their fixtures in the upcoming game weeks, I can't see myself captaining Fernandes at all. I'm going to be going for options like Salah, Vardy, a Kane. So in terms of these fixtures, I don't think I'll be going for them anyway. And you could argue that maybe going for a Leeds option here, I mean, I'm bringing in Aguero or bringing in Sterling. So, I mean, I might as well go for a United captain. But I reckon that they'll get through in the Europa League and then their midweeks are going to become pretty stacked. And I don't think Liverpool are going to overcome Real Madrid. So I don't think we have to worry about that to Europa or Champions League football for Liverpool either. So I think that in terms of that Newcastle week or that Leeds week, I'll be captaining a Newcastle at home for a Salah or a Jota rather. So that's just kind of my thinking behind this. This is the more sensible draft, I feel. Going without Fernandes is a massive risk. I know it's a big risk considering he's about 60% owned. Going to be highly owned in the top 10k. But if I'm going to be making risks at this stage of the season, I feel like I'm not going to be captaining Fernandes anyway. So I might as well take a little bit of a punt going for someone else. So Hakim saying already that the second is better. So this is the second option that I have gone for. Now going for that third option, backline exactly the same, but now instead of going for Aguero, we've gone for Vidra, just the cheap option there from Burnley, not expecting him to play much. But then I've incorporated going for Fernandes and Sterling. I'll downgrade Sterling and go for Human-Son next game week, and then I'll be given a little bit of budget to play around with. But now I've entered the Fernandes picture, and I've gone for more of a safe option, but I feel like I don't really know. I think that a lot of these players are a little bit template, and if I went for the squad, I don't know how much I would have on that upside chasing ability. But this is currently 3. So there's a couple of people asking me, or a couple of people putting their suggestions in the chat there. So out of these 3 drafts, what do you guys think is more sensible? This is question 1, so if you guys have kind of missed out on it. This is number 2, and then this is number 3. So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to go for whatever draft you kind of want for. Usama saying, hey Dave, I just got married recently. My wife is also your fan. Can you give her a shout out? She's listening at the moment. A shout out to Usama's wife. Thank you for joining the stream, and hopefully you're in the stream, and hopefully this week you're not wildcarding, because that's going to put a lot of stress on the mind. Blues FPL saying 3 is the most solid. So that's what I kind of felt as well. But to me, 3 is like so boring. That's why I don't really like it that much. Let me just take a drink of water while you guys are loading it. Thanks, Liam, for the legend, Dayvy. Okay, so a couple of people are asking me about going for Lingard over. I saw a Lingard versus Neto kind of debate going for that kind of thing. So if I had to choose between those 2 options, I would probably lean towards going for someone like Neto. I don't know. I just feel like with Lingard, although he's in probably the most form player in the Premier League at the moment, those fixtures upcoming aren't the best in the world. I know that you could argue form versus fixtures, but with Antonio out, I think it's going to take a lot away from that West Ham attack. I think I would rather just take the punt on going for Neto and just going for those fixtures. I mean, you might as well if you're going to kind of look for a little bit of a differential. Mashan saying 3 is boring. Drop Bruno and get the differential green arrows. So Mashan, you're pretty much after my heart there, because I think that 3 is also boring as well. I'm not tuning you guys I'm not. Maybe you guys don't know what tuning means. I'm not roasting you guys or disagreeing with you guys about 3. I definitely think that it's the more safe option, and that's why I think most people probably gravitate towards it. But I think that I would rather kind of go for that little bit of a punt. I don't know. I just have a feeling about Aguero this week. I mean, if he doesn't start, that's not the end of the world. We simply just take him to Vardy. But I still definitely want to go for a City captain this week. So it's either going to be Sterling or Aguero, but that's why I kind of want to go for it. Curtis Thompson's shouting at me in all caps, Dayvy, I'm a week late on your first wild card. Will my second wild card be available next week? I don't know what you're talking about with you a week late for your first wild card, but basically, Curtis, if you haven't used your first wild card, unfortunately it has expired. I think Gameweek 18 was around the mark where you should have used it by, and if you didn't use it by then, unfortunately you have lost it. So you only have 1 wild card left. Regulon or Sanchez, how long Davies is out? So SD, I would definitely go for Regulon rather. We have to have Aguero, great differential as well. So G-Bell, I do agree that he's a great differential, but I think that Sterling is almost as equal as a differential if you want to kind of go for him. I just kind of think that out of those two options, I would rather go for Aguero, and this is going to be one of those situations where I kind of want to just go for it, it's one of those feelings. I mean, I've got Liam Taylor 17 here saying that I'm going to bottle the Aguero captain, and I mean, I got to prove these people wrong that I've got the cojones to go for the Aguero captain. But it's one of those situations where I can kind of just say that I'm kind of chasing, and I wanted to go for a differential, and I can make that my excuse for going for a bad decision. So I don't know if I'd recommend you guys to go for Aguero unless you've kind of been following me this entire season and you want to get to that top 10k, and I definitely want to get to that top 10k. David, for Aguero captain or Aubameyang. So Aubameyang is one of those other options that a lot of people haven't even been messaging or posting on Twitter or their accounts about Aubameyang. And actually, if you look at it, he has a great fixture as well against Sheffield United. So he could also be a differential captain if you want to go for him. I just always favor Man City because I think in terms of that high ceiling, if you were going to tell me that one team was better to score 4 goals, I would definitely say that it's Man City over Arsenal. That's just kind of the feeling I get from them. It's going to be about that Leeds fixture, though, how open it is. So I can understand perfectly if you guys are kind of against going for someone like an Aguero captain. I just think that if you're going to be going for a Man City option, I mean, I might as well just go for one. And the thing about it, the thing that really tips it in the favor of Aguero is that I really want to bring in Vardy next week, and that gives me a nice little entry into going for Jamie Vardy. I guess I could go for Vardy this week, and I could try and get a Raheem Sterling in as well. But I just don't know if I want to kind of do that. I think that I'd rather just take the punt on going for Aguero instead. Because the thing about Aguero as well is if you look at Sterling, I mean, if you think about the Champions League, I think there's more of a potential of Sterling starting in that Champions League than Aguero. So maybe Aguero becomes the Premier League player that they just use, and I could just actually keep him long term, but probably not. Probably will just go for Vardy instead. Someone asked me, Hamza's asked me for the second draft, so this is the second draft that I went for. Jorian Law saying, lost Sterling, dude, just Aguero. That's kind of my thinking. I don't think that I'll be going for this draft one. It really tempts me to go for it because I think both these options will start. But I just think it adds confusion, and I really don't want to plan going for a -4 hit already on a wild card. Best Man City defender. Best City midfielder other than Sterling. So if you're going to go for another City midfielder, I probably would lean towards going for Gundogan or De Bruyne. You probably will go for Gundogan Delboy just because he's so much cheaper. And in terms of going for a City defender, I would be tempted by going for someone like a Diaz or going for a Stones. You're probably going to go for Stones because he's cheaper. 1.4 short for the Aguero draft. Where would you downgrade? I would probably downgrade Rashford. Downgrade Rashford and then go for Neto, and then you could do some other upgrades. I'm all in on Aguero if you are. I'm chasing 80 points in my mini league. Remember the Barnes punt we did. So that's exactly the fact of the matter is that if you guys are chasing, no one's going to own Sergio Aguero. I mean, Sterling has been captained by a couple of people, but I mean, Aguero is kind of lacking in those drafts. So if you want to go for kind of a chasing punt, then just go for it. I think I might be a little bit salty about not going for Trossard 2 weekends ago because that's kind of made me kind of think that I should just go for a differential captain when I want to. Bruno to Sterling to Salah to Bruno, or captains against all Leeds, worth it. So the thing is, that looks good on paper because you do get those best captaincy options, but the thing about it is you don't want to kind of plan too far ahead because what happens if one of your other players gets injured? What do you think about Torres? So Torres might be a punt there, Oscar. I've seen him in a lot of predicted Man City drafts, but I think just kind of maybe in a long-term vision, I might not be looking at him. And the thing is, I don't want to captain a Torres. I think I would rather captain an Aguero or Sterling. I didn't make my wild card. I will bring also next game week 3 players from Spurs, Luis, Son and Kane, and then my wild card at game week 33 when Spurs. Okay, so you can all do that. If you didn't want to use your wild card this week, it's perfectly fine. Please decide the team a little in advance of the deadline. G-Ball, no worries. I will definitely do that for you guys. I probably will do it about 10 to 5 minutes before so that you guys can get those transfers locked in. If you were bench boosting in game week 32, how does your wild card draft look? It probably would be quite similar to this because most of my options here should start. That I think I would generally just go for this draft that I have already. Maybe just look for those game week 32 fixtures a little bit more. I won't lie, I haven't really looked at the fixtures upcoming. I've kind of just tried to balance my defense as possible. But I mean, just maybe look, and maybe if a Lowton doesn't have a great game week, next game week, look for another 4.4 option. But I would go similar to this, Mocha Foot. best captain this game week, Douglas. I 100% think it's one of the Man City assets. It's basically whoever starts and whoever gets the most minutes against Leeds. And obviously if they're in a more of an attacking position. Should I start Holding or Shaw? I would go for Holding, especially if you own Kane and Son already, Blues. I probably will start Holding if I went for this draft. What team are you likely to go for, James? So right now, James, I think it's going to be this team that I'm most likely to go for. I don't know. I think that this probably has the most balance in my opinion. I'm going without Bruno Fernandes, which is a massive risk, but I still think I've got some coverage with Rashford. And I don't want a captain going for any of these options anyway out of United. Josh says, are you going to go with draft 1 or 2? I'll probably go for draft 1, Josh, right now. That's currently where I'm leaning towards. I don't know. I'm not going with Neto from an attacking point of view, but maybe it's just kind of worth not going for Neto. I could always just bring him in next game week or something like that. But I think that this is the draft that I probably will be going for right now, guys. I know that this draft probably looks a lot better on paper. But I don't know. I just think I have a feeling that I want to go for Aguero rather. And then this also allows me to get Jamie Vardy for this run of 4 lovely fixtures. And then we can kind of change it up after that. Why are you not using Gundogan? You don't think he'll play? So Bosnian, that's basically why I'm not going for him, is because I don't think he'll play. If I knew that he was going to play, then I would go for it. And Flintorfer, ach nee, lekker man. Jota or De Bruyne captain. I think that I would probably... The thing is, if De Bruyne is benched, I don't think he's going to come on. So I don't want to kind of leave you astray, but if you're willing to risk it, I would probably go De Bruyne captain and then vice captain Jota. Because if De Bruyne doesn't start, I don't think he's going to come off anyway. Curtis Thompson saying, hey, Dayvy, I used my wildcard in Game Week 17. Will I get another one? Okay, so let me just go and look at my Game Week history. Because did I use my wildcard on the last Game Week? So it was Game Week 16. Okay, so I think that you were 1 week late. So then you're not going to get a second wildcard, unfortunately, Curtis. That's a little bit unlucky for you. But, I mean, if it's your first season playing FPL, it's one of those kind of like learning things. I kind of used my chips in the first Game Weeks when I started. So... Unfortunately, it's one of that. So no Lacazette. A lot of people here are asking me about Lacazette. So I might have looked at Lacazette, but the thing is I want Jamie Vardy next week anyway. So unless I put some money in the bank. But with him playing so many minutes, I kind of feel like Aubameyang might start up front. And because they kind of took Lacazette off and then they scored, that is a little bit bad-minded for me because it almost shows that they're looking better without him. I don't know if you guys kind of feel that. Most nailed Arsenal defender, it's probably going to be someone like a... I wanted to say like a Bellerin, but I honestly don't know. Is Bellerin even playing? Just go back to the last Arsenal lineups, and I think whoever started at right back. Todd Carlson, so do you have any funds over with that team? So I've got 0.0 in the bank. On this draft, I had 1.9 in the bank, so I could maybe do some other upgrades, but that's simply just because I've gone for Neto over someone like a Rashford. Thoughts on Sterling? So Carbonero, I'm leaning towards Sterling or Aguero, and that's it's a 50-50 for me. The Aguero move makes more sense to me because I want to get Jamie Vardy in, and that's kind of the only reason why I'm kind of going for it, if you know what I'm saying. So that's kind of my thinking behind it. Why not Jesus? Is Aguero a must? So Glenn, I don't think Aguero is a must. I just think that if I looked at their fixtures, I think that Jesus also has a potential to start. Basically, what I'm banking on is Jesus and Aguero both starting together. I just look at the previous lineup of Game Week 30. Jesus was playing out wide and Aguero was playing up the middle. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen. Tyron Swart saying, how's it, Dayvy? 4.0 for left for a defender. Have Phillips and Morty already? Any suggestions? So unfortunately, Tyron, at 4 million, there's not many options that I would consider because I don't think a lot of them are going to start. Zaid saying, are you sure about Aguero? I'm not convinced of him. It's not one of those things where I'm sure of him. I don't think he'll start 100%, but I think there's a good chance that he might, and I kind of want to go for a Man City option, and it was either going for him or Sterling, so I'm leaning towards going for Aguero because I can just simply bring in Vardy. Let's maybe just go on this draft and see what we could do. So let's say we went for Jamie Vardy straight away, so we're kind of neglecting going for that move next game week. So we bring in Jamie Vardy here. We still have 2.0 in the bank to spend. I guess we could go for a 7.8 option, but I think that Neto's pretty much fine to play in that sort of situation. Because I think the next two fixtures are looking quite good for them. So let's say that we went for a Wolves option here and we went for a Pedro Neto instead. And then we took out Sterling. So this would be the squad that we have, 2.1 in the bank. Then next game week we'll take out a we'll bring in a human Son, for Sterling. And then instead of that, so then now we have 4 million in the bank. So now what we could do is next game week, we could bring in a Rashford instead, and then we could kind of have him for that Leeds fixture. So that's something that we definitely could do. So let me just put that on the table right now. So this is the other transfer. This is the other kind of draft that we could maybe decide on if we were kind of sure on Sterling starting then Aguero. So this is basically just changing this front three here. You can see Neto, Sterling, Aguero instead of Son, Rashford, and Aguero. So the plan for this would be taking out Sterling this next game week to go for human Son, and then upgrading Neto before Manchester United face Leeds, which could be something that I actually do. So this draft could also be something. Footyman, so I simply just can't afford Trent Alexander-Arnold, and also I think that he's quite expensive for that price bracket, and I don't know if it's worth. Ezekiel, can you please confirm? The thing is, I can't confirm because I don't really know what draft I'm going for. And unfortunately, that's just the matter. The only thing that's going to kind of force me to make the confirmed transfers in like when I actually have to, I'm forced to make it. But I'm really I don't really know which kind of one to go for. Vincent saying, how's it, Dayvy? Any electricity outages? Unfortunately, fortunately, there's been no electricity outages. Luckily, so there's been no load shedding here in South Africa. Shaw in, you could also go for Shaw in. I just don't know if I'd play him this week, and I think that if I was to go for a 5.3 option, I might not look at Shaw. Maybe just go for a Stones. Evening start Cody before holding. I think that I would rather go for holding over Cody. Are you not worried about the lack of Man City defenders? So big oof, I'm not worried because the thing is with that rotation on that Man City options, although they have the best defense in the Prem, I think that I'm willing to just go for some more nailed options in the attack and just free up some funds there. David saying I'm 0.9 short of the Aguero draft. Any changes? So that's pretty much this draft. The thing I could think about if you're going for 0.9 was probably downgrade Rashford to someone else. Maybe just go for a Pedro Neto off the bat. Or what you could do is maybe downgrade a Cody. But I don't like that because then you have to bring in a Marty and then you don't really have that much nailed options. But Maybe if you want to take a punt, downgrade Cody and bring in a Marty because he's 3.9, so you should have enough money there, and that's probably what I would do. Do you have enough funds to upgrade Iheanacho to Chris Wood, says Vincent. I have enough funds in this draft, but I want to kind of save this money if I want us to go for this to upgrade, to bring in Rashford after these 2 game weeks that they have. So maybe out of a Sterling and then out of Aguero, who do you guys think is the better option to go for if you were going to captain someone? Would you rather go for Aguero or would you rather go for Sterling? Because that's kind of the dilemma that I'm in. Maddison versus Iheanacho. I still would go with Iheanacho because that forward department, there's not many options to look at in that front line. So I think Iheanacho is perfectly fine. And I think with Maddison, we still haven't seen him come back from that injury, and we don't really know what position they're going to set up in. So I think that Maddison's probably a wait and see. I always love when you guys give me your feedback on these streams because half the people are saying Sterling, half the people are saying Sterling. So it's a 50-50 in this case. So Sterling should get chance of his Leeds and has a point to prove. That is true. I think that Sterling probably does have more of an opportunity to score. Glenn coming in there with some wisdom saying, always think a midfielder over a striker for captaincy. So that is something that we definitely could look at. David saying a Marty, nice suggestion, got it. So that's perfectly fine. Hopefully that your options in defense start because you might be left with some rotation there on some defenders, but I think that it could be. Superstar saying, Dayvy, I like soon. So you're probably saying Son there and you maybe just made a typo. The thing is, does Son outscore Sterling in this game week? I don't know if he does. I think that Kane and Son, maybe a double up against United, have been quite defensively strong, might not be what we look for. But I think that I'm kind of like almost leaning towards going for this draft. Cabanera saying Sterling potential 90 minutes. So the only thing I've seen with Sterling is that what a lot of people are saying is that he could actually play midweek against Dortmund. So what they think is going to happen is he plays 60 minutes this week and then he gets taken off and then he plays next midweek. So I don't know. What if Mahrez goes bonkers? So Jensen, the only thing about Mahrez is that we kind of don't know if he's going to be starting because he played the full 90 against Dortmund. So that's the only thing that's kind of leading me off potential Mahrez. But if Mahrez was benched against Dortmund, 100% would be looking at him for a potential. TAA will score more than Rashford. Okay, so that's something Footyman that maybe could be worth a consideration. Maybe what we should do is I'll pop over and I'll go to Fantasy Football Hub here, and we can do a comparison between going for, who was it? Who did we say going for someone? I'm trying to think of what debate I was kind of going for. We can go for Sterling versus Aguero. So that's something that we'll do, yeah. So I think you guys can see this. Let me just confirm. So yeah, you guys can see this. So let me first reply to Mecca saying, hi Davey, I have 0.5 in the bank more. Any changes? I probably would go for Cody to Fofana. That's what I would do. Okay, so let's go for young Sterling here. And then we look at Aguero and we see who's actually had the better stats over the last couple game weeks. Okay, so this looks quite self-explanatory. This, I'm not going to lie, this does look quite hectic. So in terms of expected points, big chances, Sterling has had a lot more, but you must also remember that Sterling misses a lot more. So that's something to also consider. So Cyril's saying, I prefer Sterling. Aguero maybe subbed if Leeds start well. So the thing is, I think Sterling could be subbed as well. It just kind of depends what they kind of go for. So he kept saying, Man City without Kevin De Bruyne and Mahrez won't score too much. I don't see them starting. So I also don't see them starting, but the thing is, Leeds are so bad defensively. I know there's that stat that apparently they haven't conceded more than one goal since quite a while ago. So G-Ball there was saying Aguero on pens. No, that is also a question, but I think the amount of pens has decreased almost massively. This is not an indicator, to be honest, but the thing is, I think it isn't it based on per start. I don't know if it is. But it is true. I guess Aguero hasn't been starting that much, so you could argue that maybe he hasn't featured that much in the past couple game weeks. But I still think that if you look at these points per game started, I guess then it's 4 points to 3.3. In terms of expected points, 7.5, but then Aguero's a 4-pointer. Let's go to big chances, 0.3. So in terms of the chances per start, he's had a lot more than Aguero has. And the thing is, when I'm thinking about Leeds, I almost think that maybe there's more space in behind. I don't know how fast Aguero is going to be off those bounds. So I don't know, I'm almost leaning towards going for this draft now, but I don't want to bottle the Aguero captain as Liam was saying. I'm now saying 12 minutes to deadline, so I will confirm my team about 10 minutes to go. So I unfortunately have to make that. Even if he's on pens, Aguero misses more pens than he should, says Evan. That could be a stat. I'm not going to go into kind of penalty accuracy right now. Todd, I definitely will be doing the transfers before. I'll make them with about 10 minutes to go. Jensen saying, how come you've never thought about Jesus? So the thing with Jesus is, I guess I have to stack a little bit more money in. And I don't know, I think that Sterling and Aguero might have more of a chance of starting than Jesus. It's just kind of like a weird feeling I have. But if you want to go for Jesus and maybe downgrade him to someone like Lacazette or upgrade him to Lacazette, that could also be a move to go for. If FPL Invincible saying play Cresswell or Shaw and Rafinha or Watkins, I would probably go for... This is kind of the one that I want to put it up to your own team. So if you own Kane and Son, then I would probably go for more of more of the player that you don't own who they're playing against. So if you own Kane and Son, go for Cresswell. But if you own a Jamie Vardy and an Iheanacho, then go for Shaw rather. It's kind of one of those. Then in terms of Rafinha and Watkins, I probably would just play Watkins because I think that Liverpool's defense is a lot worse than Man City's. Aguero for Vardy next week. That's going to be the move if I went for this draft. But otherwise, I could just have Vardy in since this game week. So I think that what we've narrowed down to is we're going to go for either of these two drafts. I'm going to be going without the main man Rashford on this draft, so we can basically close that one. So in terms of these two drafts, out of Aguero and Sterling, that's probably what I'm going to come down to. And I mean, we've looked at those stats, and I mean, Sterling does have the better stats. Are you sure about bringing in Vardy and going with a double Leicester attack? So Kane, I am pretty sure on that one because if you look at the next 4 fixtures, they have great fixtures upcoming. So that's why I want to own that double up in that Leicester attack. Do Sterling with Aguero. So again, that was my original kind of plan, but I think that might be a little bit too maverick for me. I think that's kind of planning a minus with that I don't really want to go for. Captain Kane, Vardy, Bruno, or Mount. I would probably lean towards... I probably would go for Bruno if I was to go for either Kane or Bruno. If you don't own a Liverpool asset, then probably go for Bruno in that case. I'm getting Aguero and captaining him. So that's what it's kind of leaning me towards going for it. Dayvy, you hate United, right? You support Liverpool. So I don't hate United. I'm very unbiased in FPL. But in terms of the upcoming fixtures, I don't really know. 10 minutes left to go. So I think we have to make our decision here. I honestly don't know what to do in this case. It's just such a tough spot to be in, to be honest. Like, I really wanted to go for Aguero, but after seeing those stats with Sterling, I think that I might just go with him. I think that we might have to go with this draft. I think we might have to go with going with Sterling over an Aguero. Just going maybe a little bit boring, unfortunately. First draft seems the best bet. So is this the first draft that you're talking about? I do think that Sterling might be a safer option. That's kind of the thing. I think like I don't know if my gut was telling me Aguero. I think it was kind of just telling me to go for the Man City option. So I think this might be the draft that we go for. And then we just go with the Sterling. We go with the Sterling captain. Hopefully history repeats itself when I went for that Sterling, that captain, and he scored a double. So it's either one of these two drafts, but I think I'm going to lean towards going with the Sterling move, and then just kind of having Jamie Vardy from going with Vardy. So if you're stuck between Aguero and Vardy, I would just go with Aguero. That's kind of what I feel. Okay, so I think we're going to go with this draft, guys. We're going to go with the Sterling draft. We're going with the Sterling draft over an Aguero draft. That's what I'm kind of going to be going for. So this is what the moves we're going to be making, taking out a lot of players here, and then we're going for this move. So we're going to lock it in there. Confirm transfers. Let me just take out these other options so we don't get confused here. Now we just have to kind of put in the squad and what we go for. Take out Smith Rowe, take out Cody, bring in Jota, take out Neto. I think we're going to be benching Phillips in that case. Front line looks Gucci. And then I think I'm going to be putting the captaincy on Sterling and going for the vice captain on Salah. So I think this is pretty much as confirmed as we're going to be going for. How much in the bank? I think this draft has 0. Okay, it's got 2.1 in the bank with planned transfers in the future. So these are the moves that we're going to be making. I mean, unless we go for Aguero, maybe we could still make that move. But I think this is probably what we're going to be going for. Why don't you risk Aubameyang and captain? I just think the upside on Man City is probably a little bit higher. Cresswell, Dunk, Son, Rafinha, Watkins, Iheanacho. Choose 4 to start. I would go with Son, go with Watkins, go with Iheanacho, and then go with Dunk. I don't know. I might be tempted to start Rafinha, but I just think that Man City defense is going to be too good. G-Ball, sorry. I'm 0.4 short with Vardy draft. Will I be priced out of future transfers according to the current transfer plan? Shall I downgrade someone right now to make 0.4 in the bank? So right now, I think Son's going to go down in price. So then if we were to do this move, let me just do it for you currently. We're going to be taking out Sterling. We're going to be bringing in Human Son. We're going to be taking out Neto, and we will be bringing in Rashford. So I have 0.2 in the bank, so I think that you're going to be priced out of this move. So what I would probably do in your case is I might take out Lowton, and I would bring in whoever you can afford. Kind of just go to your defenders, and if it is on Marty, just go with him. I mean, if you need that much budget, you can. But also what you could do is downgrade Cody to a 4.6. Remember, I kind of think that I would probably downgrade Cody to less than that because you want to have at least a little bit of a buffer in case there are price rises. Sorry, let me just go back down and chat. Captaincy to Alonso, that could be a massive change. What is your plan for later Alexander? So my plan is going to be taking Sterling down, and I'm going to bring in Son, and then in the game week that Man United have Leeds, I'll be going for Rashford when Neto has Burnley. That's kind of that's the plan that I'll be going for. Playing 11 and captains, this is basically what I've been going for. Let me just let me change the bench order. I think this bench is probably what I would go for. Maybe just put Smith Rowe instead. I don't think there's going to be too much between these assets. I'm perfectly comfortable benching a lot of them. What I also wanted to do was Jadorian Law, so that's 100%. I mean, if you're going to be going for Aguero captain, I honestly hope that he bangs in your case. I hope that Sterling and Aguero both bang, But I'm perfectly, like, if you want to go for that Aguero captain, that is 100% fine. I'm almost a little bit jealous of you because I do think that Aguero has that potential to absolutely bang. Thoughts on Cody and Semedo double up? I wouldn't go for that. I would go for just maybe Cody because he's cheaper. I don't trust that Wolves defense that much. What do you think of Redmond over Neto? That would be kind of a 1 week punt that you go for. I think that I would rather just go for Neto for the few upcoming game weeks because I think Southampton have good fixture, bad fixture than the blank. Gone Aguero, says Matthew, going to take a hit to Vardy next week. That's perfectly fine, Matthew. Good luck with that. I would probably be a little bit tempted to go for that as well, but I think that I would be a little bit confused on who to captain out of Sterling and Aguero. Aspi or Rudiger, if you can afford both Cabanero, go for Azpilicueta. You got 2.0 in the bank. I think I have 2.1 in the bank after this draft. I can just check that for you right now. I've got 2.1 in the bank, so I've got quite a bit of cash to kind of spend, but I mean, if it happens, it happens. Neto or Phillips, definitely go for Neto. Vidra over Kia. True. So I think I would probably do that, Adam. If you're perfectly fine with the rest of your lineup, I think I would probably take the punt on going with Vidra because that West Ham defense has been quite solid this season. 4.2 for a defender, I would probably lean towards going with either Stones or Fofana. Start Leno or Mendy. I would start Leno because it is against Sheffield United. Dayvy or FPL, definitely go for Dayvy. I mean, you guys shouldn't care what content I'm creating. I should be able to stream Minecraft and you guys would pay attention. Why no Man City defender? Because there's a potential rotation for that. Cody or Phillips, I would probably go for Cody. I just have a feeling that Liverpool might concede against Aston Villa. No Lingardinho, unfortunately, no. I think that maybe that injury to Antonio might be quite bad, and then also their fixtures upcoming are quite rough. Watkins versus Smith Rowe. LV, I'd go for Watkins. Smith Rowe, he might not even play. Mason Mount, if you want to take a punt on Mason Mount, that's also a nice move to go for. It's just that I think the Chelsea transfers, the week to take a punt has kind of ended because they face Brighton up next, who've been quite defensively strong as well. Aguero in for Vardy, that could be something that you do, and just be sure that you want to take a -4 hit. I would say that I would be comfortable with doing that move as long as you want to take a -4 hit in your case, which could be something that I do, to be honest. I mean, does Aguero outscore Jamie Vardy by 4 points? I mean, I don't know if I can say that, to be honest, so that's why I'm kind of not doing it. Why no Fofana? Because I want to kind of save my budget for upcoming moves, and maybe I want to bring in someone like a Bruno Fernandes in the near future. I could do that. Will Alonso start? I think that he would start. I think that's pretty certain. So I would definitely start him over someone like Cody. Thanks for Liam. Hopefully my South African accent isn't too thick or deep, and it's actually listenable for you guys. I know some people, I think it was like 2% of people listen to my videos with captions on. So that could be something like maybe they can't hear, or maybe they actually can't hear my accent. Jason saying Sterling was the best option to make. Good advice. So if you're saying that that's a good option to go for, I'm regretting it instantly. And I think that Sterling is definitely going to blank this week. So thanks, Jason. Only joking. Touch wood there. Hopefully he doesn't. Alonso over Rudiger. Yes, I would probably do that. But the thing is, I'm going for Rudiger because I don't want to spend transfers in the upcoming fixtures. Jensen saying thick. Yes, I think this team is looking a little bit thick. It's not Hazard thick, but I definitely think that it has some potential. How much do you have in the bank? I've got 4.1 in the bank. What is the total value of your team? I can scroll down for you. It's 99.4 plus 2.1. So you can do the math on that one. I'm a little bit tired after all this wildcard thinking. Move to Cape Town. Better accents aware. So Jadroyan Law, that could be true, but then I could start talking like a Cape Townian. That's probably that could also be someone from Durban, actually. Sultan Said saying big week incoming. Hopefully, Sultan. Hopefully, watching all the videos this week has led to a pretty epic week. Liam saying my dentist is South African. You sound very clear. Thank you. I appreciate it, Liam. Give your dentist a shout out from me. Why no Aguero instead of Vardy? I just can't say that maybe Vardy outscores. I can't say that Aguero outscores Vardy by -4. I kind of would only do that move if I was going to bring in Vardy next week. I don't know. It's a weird one, but I just don't really want to plan a -4 it right now. Because I want to bring in Son next game week, anyone. No front teeth if you move to Kaapstad, maybe. 1 minute to the deadline. Please get those terms in. Karen saying, thanks, Dave. I couldn't see the name of Holding. Got it now. You're the best. So apologies, Karen, if the stream is a little bit blurry. I know that I think I'm streaming on 720p, so maybe just adjust that resolution. Yeah, Nacho hat-trick coming, says Vincent. I would maybe prefer maybe like a Vardy hat-trick because I think he might be a little bit more differential in those wildcard drafts. But hopefully, I mean, if Nacho gets a hat-trick and then Vardy gets all the assists, I'd be perfectly happy with that. I'm just going to pop the refresh on the stream just to get that team finalized to show you guys that it is finalized. And yes, we have gone. And I reckon that the deadline will be pretty soon. So I know that I'm not really regretting it too much going without Aguero. I mean, if he does end up playing and absolutely banging, I will have a little bit of regret, but I think that I just wanted to kind of captain a Man City player. Why Holding? He is rubbish. He may be rubbish, but so are Sheffield United from an attacking point of view. So that's why I've gone for him. And I mean, if he doesn't play, I can simply just get Cody off the bench, which will be fine. But the deadline has been finished. Deadline. So unfortunately, if you guys haven't made those team selections, that's a little bit unfortunate, but I managed to get that wildcard draft in quite early on, so you guys should have had all those transfers locked in. Hopefully the wildcard draft is looking good. As long as we get a green arrow, I'll be happy. As those chases on that top 10k is coming to a close with the game weeks kind of ending, we could actually look for it. Matthew said, when Sterling captain with Aguero in the team, already questioning myself. So unfortunately, Matthew, that's the case if I went for that Aguero captain or I put Aguero on my side. I wouldn't know which of them to captain, but as Glenn was saying, go for the Sterling captain because the midfielder is always usually better than an attacker. So thank you all for joining. If you did go for Aguero, hopefully he absolutely bangs for you guys, but I'm also hoping that Sterling has a good game week. So thanks for joining me on this Friday night. Hopefully you guys go and enjoy yourself on this Friday night. Obviously stay safe and stay healthy. And hopefully this game week is an absolute banger and the green arrows are in your guys' favor. I'm going to be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.